Everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast, sitting down with Jeff Tingley to talk about Heretic Hex, Rare Earth Comics, and of course the upcoming New York Comic Con. So, Jeff, how you doing?
Doing pretty good today, Adam. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. I'm sure you're getting very busy. I mean, it's con season all summer for indie comic creators, and New York's a big one.
It is. A couple years ago, we did a lot of cons, and we've narrowed it down because, we're parents. We've gotten older. Well, I'm not a parent, but others at our company are parents, have gotten older. So now we do the two big ones. We do San Diego and New York. So this is kind of the wrap up of our con season.
Well, okay. So you do the real big ones.
We do the real big ones. Yes.
Yeah. Do you fall into that rabbit hole where you're doing like a con every week and you feel like you're never home?
I have done that in the past. Yes.
Yeah, that's rough. Well, before we get to the con itself, why don't we talk about Heretic Hex? Because that's your current running comic.
That is my current running comic. It's a comic I'm really proud of. It comes in 60 pages of 60-page volumes. So I'm on the third volume right now. It's going to be premiering at New York Comic Con. And when I pitch it, I sometimes pitch it as simple as 3 words: Punk Rock Gandalf.
Okay, well, that's an awesome description, and those 3 words have my interest peaked. So, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you. That's the point.
Right, it works. I wanted to ask, what was the decision for 60-page volumes instead of the more traditional, say 20-page floppy book, or doing the whole story in one giant book?
So the 60-page idea came from the idea of people are mostly picking up this book at cons from us. We're not really in comic stores. We're in a couple, but not really in comic stores. We're not in Diamond. So if you're going to see us once a year at a con, what is a good number of pages that you leave going, I feel satisfied with this, and maybe I'll pick up the next one?
That's a really smart idea, because if you're at a con and you pick up a 20-page book for $5, great, you're going to read it, you're going to love it, you're going to want more. Okay, well, wait a year.
Right.
Yeah, nice thinking. And is this your third comic title? Heretic Hex. I know this is your third volume you're making.
It's the third volume. I've worked on several books before then, the longest one being a webcomic called Doberman.
Okay, cool. Yes. And you like this longer format better, or different, or worse?
I like this longer format better. I'm a big fan of the 90s indie books. I'm talking Cerebus, Bone, Poison Elves, all of those books that I grew up with. And this is the closest I think I've captured to getting that feel.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. I definitely understand what you're saying. So Heretic Hex with Rare Earth Comics. Is Rare Earth Comics, from the little bit you've said about it, it sounds like you're one of the founders?
Well, we're a very small group. We are a very small group. There's, let's see, I'm doing the math real quick. There are 6 of us right now that all just kind of do our own thing, make our own books, and then we get together so that we have support from cons. We funnel money together so that the money for printing this book comes from the work that we do at cons, and things like that.
Okay, that's cool. So it's like an indie music label where it's a handful of bands that know each other get together to soften the blow of doing it independently.
Exactly.
Smart move, especially with New York and San Diego being the cons that you're doing, because if you each got a table, the 6 of you, you'd be...
Correct.
Plus, it gives you someone to hang out with at the con, which is always good.
Talking to people is the best part of the con. We do commissions nonstop, and if you come by, you'll probably see me there with my head down drawing. Mm-hmm. But stop me and talk to me, and that's the best part. And when that's not going on, I've got other people there that I love just talking comics with.
Yeah, you kind of get that energy and excitement when you're interacting with different people all day long.
Yep. And we'll have, I think, 3 artists at the table this year. And it's also really exciting because I'm working on commission. I'll look over at what Dave or Carl is doing, and I'll be like, Oh, damn. I got to get better than that.
That friendly competition.
Correct.
Really cool. I'm kind of going out of order here, but Heretic Hex, you just said, you're going to be one of a few artists at the table. In Heretic Hex, are you the writer, creator,
Yeah,
penciler, inker?
Pretty much if it's on the page, it's me. I
Very
write it,
cool.
I draw it, I letter it. Volume 3 is the first time I'm trying. I figured out how to digitally recreate the look of Zipatone, so I could really get like that 90s indie feel. So it's all grayscaled by me too. So.
Oh, really cool. So this one is 100% beginning to end you.
Correct.
That is intense. I do a little cartoony indie comic with a friend, and we feel like it's unbearable or too much to do with the two of us. So I can only imagine cutting that, doubling the work, not cutting it.
Right. And my workflow is a little bit different than other people who do this. I know a lot of people do a penciling pass of the full book, then an inking pass, then I'll work on a page at a time.
Okay.
I'll pencil it, ink it, grayscale it, letter it, then move on to the next page.
Does that help keep the monotony at bay? Like, if not monotony because it's your work, I'm sure you're into it. That was the wrong word. But just like if you pencil 60 pages, by page 45, you got to be like, I got to do something else. I cannot sit here and sketch anymore. Same thing with inking. You get to inking page 45 and you're like, I just want to draw something new. I'm just going over lines I've already drawn.
And it gets to a point like when I've done penciling a page, I'm like, all right, that's done, but it's not done. I want it to be done.
Okay.
Before I move on.
That feeling of actually completing it, not just moving to the next one and the next one, and then it's 10 months down the line and you feel like you've completed it.
Correct.
Really cool. Really cool. Have you ever, has it ever come back to bite you though? Like you get a page inked and then you draw the next page and you're like, oh, I should include this detail.
All the time.
Okay.
After I finished volume 1 and I laid it all out and I looked at it and there are still mistakes in it that make me cringe, but still, I've looked at continuity and went back and like redrew half the pages because I went, yeah, this doesn't line up anymore.
Yeah, that's rough. That's the argument for, I guess, doing it in the more traditional order, but you got to do it your way. So.
Yep.
That's funny that it's all the time, but I'm not changing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to develop your own flow, right? You're going to have, I don't know how many artists you've interviewed, but probably a lot. And everyone probably tells you something slightly different that they do.
That's why I always love these conversations, because even though we're all making around the same product, we're making it 100% different ways.
Right. When I was learning how to write comics, because, I felt more confident about my art than my writing, I read, I don't know how many interviews with, all the writers that I admire, and they talked about how they do their pages, and some would even like release pages. And I went, oh, I could do it that way. And then I'd read somebody else and I'd go, oh, I could do it that way.
Yeah, that is a big thing that I've talked to, many creative people, and I went through it myself. When you're starting something, you want to do it the correct way. So you read every book there is on script writing and story writing and the 3-act structure and laying it out. And you just, that it's important to know, but you also just have to do it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, when you ask why not tell it as one bigger, longer story, I think that's also why I like the 60 pages, because like the 60 pages is then done in a reasonable time. Here it is.
That's true. Instead of it being like, oh, in 5 years, I'll have a 400-page book. Look for it.
Right.
You can release every so often.
Yeah. And to be honest, that was my favorite part about doing web comics, and I might go back and do a couple in between my next book, is that with web comics, and the great thing is, boom, there it is. I finished it yesterday and it's ready for you to read.
Yeah, is that like the more traditional like 3-panel like newspaper comic, or is it more like 1 page at a time?
I think the next book I'm going to be working on, if it's not Heretic Hex 4 or in between that, is going to be a webtoon, which I don't know if you've read them, but it's a free-to-read app designed for your phone, and it's 1 page at a time, but they're long pages. You're meant to keep scrolling up and up and up and up.
Okay. Is that something that you would take a comic you've written and then cut up the panels and arrange it, or you write it for that format?
So if I write something new for it, it will be for that format. However, I have put Heretic Hex 1 and 2 free to read on Webtoon. And for that, what I did is I said it's 60 pages, so each chapter is 20 pages. Each book is 3 chapters. So it feels like you're reading 3 comic books.
Okay.
And for that, I just dumped 20 pages in a stack lined up top to bottom so that you scroll up through 20 pages. And then the next page is the next chapter, and it's another 20 pages. You keep scrolling up.
So just massive files.
Yes.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've heard of the Webtoon thing. I looked at it a little bit, and it seemed daunting to have to write with that format in mind. Like, I'm just getting used to writing, you're flipping a book. So
yeah.
That's cool, though, because it does seem like it has a big audience. You're far from the first one to mention that and having success with it.
Right. Like, I want you to come buy the book from me because, I like money. But more important, I want you to read the book. So I'm going to get it out there in any format that I can that's going to get eyes on it.
Yeah, and I would have to imagine that if someone reads it on a 5-inch narrow screen scrolling forever, and then they see your nice printed traditional book format, it's just going to increase the enjoyment of the story.
That's what I'm hoping, yes.
It would have to, yeah.
Especially since it was designed originally to be that nice printed book.
Yeah, that's a good point. As far as your releases, do you time them? Like you said, right now you guys are just doing San Diego, New York. Do you time your releases for one or the other?
I try to, but, I really wanted to have this volume out for San Diego at the beginning of the summer, and that just wasn't going to happen.
Right,
so when I realized that and I slowed down, I stopped, I took my time, I made sure that I really had it up and ready for New York now.
Okay, cool. So then you'll have this one and you'll be selling 1, 2, and 3 at, say, San Diego next year, and ideally 4 or whatever else you're working on is around the time.
Right.
Excuse me.
No problem. The nice thing about doing San Diego is it forces you to be productive. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but San Diego Small Press runs on a jury system. And to get a booth in Small Press, you have to show them something you've printed within the last year.
Wow. To even be considered.
Yes.
Okay. And is that like Rare Earth Comics as a collective, or is that
yes, that's Rare Earth
need to have something?
That's Rare Earth Comics as a collective, and for the past 3 or 4 years, that's been me.
Oh, okay. You got to tell these other guys to pick up the slack.
It is nice. Occasionally we do have a couple other things to fill in. Like when we can't, we'll grab one of our web comics that somebody else has worked on, and we'll compile that into a book, and we'll go, here we go. And that's how we've been at San Diego for, I don't know, many, many years.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that's something else I actually wanted to ask is, did you start, like when you guys first started creating comics, or maybe a couple of you were in and a couple of you were thinking about it and you guys get together as a group, did you say, let's not mess around with the local one-day con. Let's go to San Diego.
So I joined the company when I think I was the 3rd or 4th person to join the company. The first 2 wrote their first book together, and that's what they did. They just jumped straight to San Diego. And by the time I got there, they tell stories about all the mistakes that they made and all of the things that they figured out.
Yeah.
And honestly, every year when we go, we have pre-meetings going, okay, what are we going to do this year to be more effective, to either get more viewers or get more eyes or set up faster or something.
Yeah, that's interesting because I haven't been to San Diego, but I've been to New York, and I don't know if I would want to be a vendor unless I've done it for a long time, just because it's the amount of people, even if they don't know who you are, just the amount of people walking by your table has to be intimidating.
It's exciting. And our secret is one of the head writers of our company and the founder of our company, Ian Alley Seals, he doesn't draw. So while we're doing commissions, he's watching people walk past and he's like, hey, you, that's a real cool costume. Come on over here. And then once they're at the booth, we just start talking to them about comic and nerd stuff. And then we turn the conversation to our books.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to give the hard sell, so you always say, "Hey, cool T-shirt, hey, nice hat," and
Right.
that is a really smart way to do it. To have that many people with different skills and different availability to interact with the crowd, so that your guys are always turning people over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's invaluable to have. Like, I've also walked up and down like these aisles, I can't tell you how many times, and the number of artists who are phenomenal artists who are just there. I'm like, look at all these people walking by.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you want to do your thing, but right now you're at a con, so your thing has to be that.
Right.
Very cool. For the smaller cons, I know you said in the very beginning, right when we started, that people have families, life gets in the way, jobs, whatever it is. Did you also find valuable information and connections at those, even though the pool is much smaller?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's when people are more willing to connect with you, you know? You get a
Okay.
little bit more you get a little bit more time, the con's a little slower, and people really want to hang out at the booth more and talk a little bit more about the things that they think are cool. And I love when something I do is somebody's favorite thing at the con.
Yeah.
And it happens quite a bit at New York and San Diego,
Oh,
but
good.
it happens a lot at these smaller cons.
That's really cool, and that's really good insight that I would have not thought of. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense that you can have that one-on-one connection with a fan or a reader probably a lot easier when there's not Marvel Studios set up across the aisle from you with $1 billion booth.
Right. Or, not like 2 miles of con to go through and people looking around, they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I mean, Artist Alley at New York Comic Con is a convention center in itself.
Yes.
But you're still loving it. It sounds like the big conventions.
Absolutely. Like, I don't know what I personally would do if I couldn't tell stories. In
Mhm.
fact, the first Heretic Hex came out of sheer frustration. And the stories are great and I love getting them out there, but then what good are they if I don't do anything with them? I want to get them to people.
Yeah, for sure. We've actually talked about San Diego more than New York, but New York is the one coming up in a little under a month with us, or maybe just over a month, about a month of us recording this. So, what was your first New York experience like?
My first New York experience was my first ever con.
Oh, geez, you just drive into the deep end, don't you?
I just dove into the deep end. And so my first ever con, and I barely just met the people from Rare Earth Comics. And at the time, this was like a 4-person operation, counting me. It was Dave and Ian, who had a book and had been doing this for a while. And then their friend Pito, who, did a lot of the logistics and the running around, the handling things. And Ian, who was my contact for all of this, and the person that like spearheaded everything, was off in the Grand Canyon until the first day of the con. So, so I went in blind, took a bus into New York, didn't know what I was doing, was following around our friend Pito, was like, well, come over here and I'll just show you how to set this up. And then like it was also his first time setting it up. So we're at the con for like a full day, just about. And Ian finally comes over and goes, sorry, guys, sorry I'm late. All right, let's fix all of this. And that was my first New York. So,
All right. Well, I guess if you're going to be diving into the ocean head first, that's what's going to happen. It's just going to be sink or swim.
right.
So was that your first con, not just as a vendor, but like had you gone to conventions just as, part of the public just to enjoy it?
I've been to a couple of the smaller ones. I've never been to anything as big as New York before that.
Oh man, I don't know if I would have been able to handle it.
It was a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. But obviously you had a good time because you've been doing it, you said, for many years.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, that I did want to loop around because I felt like I left a story hanging there. Where I talked
sure,
about
yeah.
the first Heretic Hex being born out of pure frustration.
Yes.
Which was during all of this time, I had what I thought was a steady career in theme park entertainment. I was working Six Flags. I went to Georgia and was full-time there. And then they decided they didn't need my position.
Oh.
So I moved back home, living in my parents' basement, going, well, what's my new career? And I got a tattoo apprenticeship. And then I started as a tattoo artist. And I'm about 2 months into my being a tattoo artist, 2 months. And the owner of my shop goes, oh, so I'm going to be moving, so you should probably leave the shop. I went around to every shop I could, and they were like, oh, yeah, that's a nice story, but you need more experience. And,
You're like, that's why I'm here.
And there was a day where I was supposed to go and look at shops that were like an hour away because I depleted everything fuller. And I went, no, screw that. And I just started writing.
Mm-hmm.
So that first script, like when I say it's a punk rock Gandalf, that first script was an angry punk rocker being fed up and trying to find something to be angry about.
Yeah. Kind of like just through your character trying to find your place as to like, I'm tired of my success being determined by somebody else's whimsy. So let's just do this thing.
Yep. Now that I'm 3 volumes in, it's a little bit more premeditated than that, but I try to keep that original spirit.
Yeah, then now it's in your foundation. It's in your structure, so that's good.
Yes.
I mean, silver lining, it's good. I'm sure at the time it didn't feel so good.
No, but it felt so good to have something to work on.
Yeah. I do think that's missing from a lot of people's lives. Even people who have, great family life and they do have a good career that they enjoy. I feel like people who don't have this creative outlet are missing something they might not even realize they're missing.
Yeah. It's always saved me. Like I've got so much going on inside, and if I don't do something with it, I feel like I'm going to burst.
Yeah. And I'm sure you find like the writing is cathartic in one way, then your penciling, inking is a whole different, meditative feeling or something like that. The lettering is for the final pieces of the puzzle. So you probably get a lot of fulfillment in different ways from the different parts of it.
I do. And watching it all come together, like there'll be times where I finish a page and even though it's done, I stay some time looking at it going, well, let's just look at this layer for a little bit. Let's just look at the inks. Let's just look at what the pencils looked like, and it feels really fulfilling.
Yeah, I'm sure you still get that rush too, because this is something that I love you work on, and especially since you're doing the book from concept to final. So you're living with this for countless hours. People who don't make comics don't know how many hours one page takes. So I'm sure when you get that printed book in your hand, even before any of them sell, you're like, wow, I did that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The first time, volume 1, so for volume 1, we didn't get a full print run. We weren't going to get a full print run in time for San Diego. So we had them ship 12 volumes to the hotel room we were staying at in San Diego. And that was my first look, was just 12 volumes. And I'm like, wow, I've got a book.
Yeah. Did you get to keep any of those first ones, or did they all go at the con?
Of those first 12, no, they're all gone. But we printed up enough excess, and of course we have to have them on hand because I'll have 1, 2, and 3 at New York. So
yeah, good.
I've got volumes kicking around.
Very cool. So at the very outset, I think it was even before we started recording, you're not exactly sure where you're going to be at New York Comic Con for people to find you, but you're going to be in Artist Alley, I presume?
No, Small Press.
Small Press, okay.
We'll be in Small Press, which is like 3 or 4 alleys wide. So I don't know exactly where we are in there. They move us around a little bit each year, but we'll be easy to find.
Very cool, yeah. And for people who can't make New York Comic Con this year, where can they find Heretic Hex or your other works or the other Rare Earth Comics works?
So we're on rareearthcomics.com. Nice and easy to remember. And like I said, a lot of our books are also on Webtoon. And I've also put Heretic Hex up on a small app called Global Comics.
Oh yeah, Global Comics is a good growing one too.
Yeah, they're great people. I wasn't even thinking about them too much because like I had to format it for Webtoon, so I was thinking more about them.
Mm-hmm.
But then at San Diego, a representative from Global Comics showed up at our booth because they went, "Hey, I saw that you've got a comic on here. So can we do anything for you? Get you water, give you a bathroom break or anything?" And I'm like, "Whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, we're fine, but that's awesome."
Yeah, just the offer is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
really stand-up company then. That's cool.
they're great people.
Yeah, well, Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. I'll look for you at New York Comic Con. And for anyone listening, if you can't make it, rareearthcomics.com.
Thank you.